Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Opcast, where we at Opline take an opportunity to reach out to some of our partners in the veteran hiring space and share some of the great things that they're doing. I have the pleasure and honor today to introduce Eddie Maltzahn from Entergy. I've known Eddie for a while now, from back in my days at Amazon. Great to have Eddie on as a fellow New Orleanian, although went to a rival high school of mine in New Orleans. We still get along these days. All good though. But Eddie, welcome to the show. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Beau, definitely. Thanks for having me.
Well, great having you here today. And what I like to start off with typically on the podcast is you talk about your military service. Obviously, we'll get to what you're doing now at Entergy, but go back to how did it all start for you as far as joining the military, and kind of what was your inspiration to join the military?
Yeah, for sure, Beau. So my situation kind of unique. Don't really have any family that was prior, military service. So I know a lot of folks. I know from my time as a military recruiter, a lot of folks that come into my office, that was their inspiration. Military service was in their family, but I don't have any to trace back for me. So for me, I graduated high school, as you mentioned, from a rival high school of yours, Rummel High School. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do, no direction really. I went to a local community college here in New Orleans, Delgado Community College. Really, I was still going for a general studies degree. No clear path on what I wanted to do. And a couple of years after high school, my cousin had reached out to me, and he wanted me to go with him because he didn't want to go alone to talk with some of the military recruiters. So I went as a buddy, as a cousin, as a moral support for him. And long story short, he had a collapsed lung in his history, and he had staples in his lungs. So when we went to MEPS, that was detected, and for some reason that wasn't talked about pre-MEPS. So he was disqualified for at least 3 years. They told me he could try again in 3 years. And I was qualified, and I was just there. I was just there as a buddy to him. So ended up I joined, and he didn't. But that was there was a little bit in the beginning. So I was like, okay, I'm left with the Marine Corps and the Air Force, and I didn't know really anything about the military, but I knew Marine Corps wasn't the route I wanted to go. So when I went to the Air Force recruiter's job, to this day I tell people I must have been the easiest recruit for him, because when I walked into the Air Force recruiter's job for the first time, I already had MEPS results. I already knew. I narrowed it down. I wanted to go to the Air Force. So I basically just handed him over my MEPS results, my scores, and told him, hey, I want to join. Sign me up. So I was the easiest sell for him. I joined active duty Air Force right after September 11th. I didn't get a chosen AFSC or MOS. I kind of went in open and open electric. This whole journey experience military was new to me, so I had no clue what that meant. So what it looks like, so you and your viewers know, is when you get to basic training, you're brought into a room and you're given a sheet that has 5 jobs on it with very minimum descriptions for each one. And it's like, hey, here you go. Pick one. This is going to be your future career with the military. So I ended up picking a really good career. The official name for it is Computer Networking, Switching, and Cryptographic Systems. Fast forward to present day, that has been shortened to cyber systems terminology now. But that's what I originally joined the Air Force for, basically was as an IT guy. And that was another part of the experience that was pretty neat to me, because went to Lackland Air Force Base, San Antonio for basic training, follow up with right here close to where I live at Keesler Air Force Base for training for IT. And then from there, no one really knows where they're going until 2 weeks prior to graduating from technical training. Then I found out I was going to Okinawa, Japan, halfway across the world. That 2 years there was really awesome, really good time there. Not so much on the assignment side, because there's a lot of wearing of the gas mask involved in that area of the world. So a lot of people don't really like Okinawa's assignment because of the work side, but on the play side, being on a 60 by 30-mile island is a pretty cool experience, especially me as a 21, 22-year-old guy. So that was great times, great memories made there. My 4 years in the Air Force, I kind of thought I'd stick around and do more time, but unfortunately the Air Force shredded my AFSC, and I'll kind of explain that. So it happens from time to time that I've learned in the military service branches, but once the military trains you on like a specialty, and for me, I was trained on the E3 AWACS airframe, and I was maintaining the computer systems that were on board. And the Air Force felt like at that point they've invested specialized training into me for that. So they shredded my FSC, which means at that point, the only following duty stations I could go to had to have the E3 AWACS air surveillance mission attached to them. So that limited my choices of where I could be stationed between Okinawa, Japan, Tinker Air Force Base, Oklahoma City, or Elmendorf, Alaska. And back then, I didn't realize Alaska was a really nice place. I just think bitter cold, not fun. And I just came from Okinawa, right? And my follow-on assignment was Oklahoma City. So I'd already been to 2 of the 3 locations that I was now limited to, and I was like, well, I don't really have any intentions or want to go to Alaska. And Okinawa was nice, but do I really want to keep ping-ponging back and forth for the next 20 years? So at that point, unfortunately, I separated. I discovered about the Air National Guard, and I never really knew that the Air National Guard existed or was an option. The way that happened was my sister works at the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. She had my little 2x4 graduation from boot camp picture on her desk, and that strummed up a conversation with a coworker who happened to be an IT guy in the 159th Louisiana Air National Guard, working in the small communications flight, which is only like 40 personnel who work in that flight. So just he happened to see the picture, drum up a conversation. When they had that conversation, I was like a month out from separation. So he reaches out to me. I have no clue who he is. I know your sister. I work with your sister. Have you ever considered the Air National Guard? That way you can continue service, come back home, and just do part-time service. And I was like, okay, I've never heard of it, but sure, like, tell me about it. And so he sold me on the Air National Guard. Then he mentions that, they drill in Belle Chase, Louisiana. And he's like, that's on the West Bank. And I'm like, I have no clue where Belle Chase is. As a kid, I told him as a kid, I've been to the West Bank a few times, but never that far, never that deep in the West Bank. So yeah, ended up in timeline, this is going to be Hurricane Katrina making landfall August 2025. And for me, separation was June 2006. And that was the year right after Katrina. So me joining the Louisiana Air National Guard at that time, it was really a good thing because the unit at that time needed all the help they could get, post Katrina, because a lot of folks know that Katrina really put a number on not just the city, but the Army National Guard, the Air National Guard as well.
No doubt. That's a crazy story. A couple of things. Did your cousin ever join 3 years later?
Yeah, so I reached out to him later on. I was like, hey, and he had already, it's one of the things where, you move on and other things come up and you kind of get involved with that. And he had just moved on and never really even thought about coming back to MEPS.
That is a great story of how you got there and getting into the Air Force. And it's funny, like you just you didn't even know, like, oh, I'll just go where they gotta send me. I'll go take the MOS. I didn't know what I was doing. Obviously, it all worked out in a great way. And now, were you able to? How does it work when you get into the Guard? Do you have to change your MOS? I assume, is that how it works, or do you?
That's right. So there's going to be slots on the manning document and billets, so they can only fill so many personnel per job. I did have to change career fields, but still within the IT cyber world. So I did have to go back to Keesler for another 3 months of training, but it was closely related to what I was currently doing. Yeah.
And then I guess I'm interested in hearing your transition story, because obviously you transitioned out of the Air Force. You joined the Guard, but the Guard is not necessarily a full-time job. You were obviously pursuing. So talk to me about how you addressed what was your transition like, and how'd you go about it? Yeah.
Honestly, for me, I think it's very unique because all my time spent in the Guard was all active times. Whether they gave me active duty orders or they put me on an indefinite year-to-year assignment within the Air National Guard. Then I did work as a GS-11 as a federal civil service. I spent a lot of my time just kind of bouncing back and forth between different statuses, but it was always a full-time status within the Guard. If you look back at my Air National Guard career from 2006 until when I retired in 2023, it was a lot of back and forth from Metairie to Belle Chase. I pretty much did active duty service within the Louisiana Air National Guard because officially I retired with 21 years of service, but I had 14 years of AGR active years.
Got it.
From that 21 years.
So it really was not much of, not much of a transition. It was going from the Air Force to the Guard, but really all Air Force time, not without much of a break in time. So your real transition occurred from the Guard,
right,
the civilian sector, right? Because it's pretty smooth. A lot of people join the Guard or the Reserve, and they only do it weekends or whatever. But you went right into AGR, so you were doing it full time, right? Yeah,
correct. That's correct.
Interesting approach to it. So then talk about your transition then from the Guard into Entergy, or how did that all come about, or what was happened before that? Maybe I'm just kind of how that process.
Yeah.
transition go from the Guard? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So my first 15 years of service was all IT based. And then I kind of hit a wall right around 2015. It wasn't really progressing anymore. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go do recruiting. I know it's a 180 different world from where I'm at now. I looked at it as a part of giving back, kind of recruiting and reaching out to that next generation. So my last 7 years of service was spent on the recruiting slash the retention side of the house. Quick story. I live in Metairie, and one day I came home and there was a guy jogging as I was pulling into my driveway. He was passing wearing his Air Force fitness clothes, and he was jogging, and he stopped because he saw I was in uniform. And so we just got to talking, and we were like, man, we didn't realize we live in the same neighborhood. We're probably the only two in this neighborhood that are Air Force, So we get to talking, and it turns out that I'm an Air National Guard recruiter and he is an active duty Air Force recruiter, and we both work in the same area. We just hadn't crossed paths before. We just found that ironic that we both lived in the same neighborhood. When he retired from his Air Force active duty recruiting tour, he went and worked with Entergy as a recruiter. So long story short, he posted the position that I'm currently with Entergy, the military talent strategist position. He posted it on his LinkedIn, and I saw it. I checked his post because he tagged me in his post, and it was the military talent strategist role. And I looked at the role, and I go into the job description and looking at the roles and responsibilities, and it says preferred, 7 years recruiting experience, preferably in the military. And at that point in my life, I had 7 years recruiting.
He
I
wrote
want
it
to
for
go
me.
IT, but this opportunity is like custom made for me. So I applied and thankfully got that position. Really excited about that. But then I was also scared because this is COVID's going on. I'm transitioning, and this is where I'll kind of be able to share with you and the audience a little bit about transitions. My first real job interview was with Entergy. So I had the behavioral style questions as part of the interview. Didn't have any preparation for it. Now, as a recruiter who's been through that, now I prep candidates for behavioral style questions. I teach them the STAR methodology, teach them how to prepare their answers, tell them to have a notebook with them to write the questions down, just all kind of tips like that. But I didn't have any tips like that. So I go into this interview thinking, did they really just ask me a 25-word question? They're expecting me to just spit out an answer, right away. That was my probably first hurdle that I ran into was that. And then starting my position with Entergy while still being in, I was actually still a traditional guardsman with the Air National Guard. So I started right around Hurricane Ida time frame. So we're talking August 2021 is when I got that position with Entergy. But I was still serving my last 2 years of service. So I'm coming over during COVID, trying to meet your team virtually, being in your first corporate position. I want to be in the office with y'all, interface with y'all, and learn who's who. My first month of being an Entergy employee, I was activated with Hurricane Ida, so I went and put on back the uniform, went down to Plaquemines Parish, and I was working at a distribution center that we had set up down there. So handing out tarps, water, ice, MREs to folks that live in Plaquemines Parish. I was doing that for a good 4 weeks before I came back. Honestly, that let me know about a great benefit, and I'll make a little plug here for Entergy. My supervisor, when I came back, he was like, "Did you do your differential pay paperwork?" And I was like, "No, what's that?" Turns out military put me on state active duty orders, and everybody who's been on state active duty orders knows it's very minimum pay. So Entergy actually paid me my full paycheck supplemental while I was activated for that 1 month period. So that was awesome. I didn't even know that was part of the benefits package when I joined
Huh.
Entergy. So I
Yeah.
took advantage of that right from the start, the first month. So that probably I would say would be my hardest transition was like, okay, I'm in this new space. I have team members and stuff that are here to support me, but they're all virtual. I can make a phone call. I can connect with them on Zoom. But that was tough. I would tell folks that it probably took me a good 2.5 years to kind of fully transition and absorb the mentality of corporate, the mindset, thinking about the business case, things you don't have to think about in the military. You don't have to ever have to think about the business case of the company you're with. You know what I mean? You just go get things done. No questions asked most of the time.
No, that's great stuff. It's great, and it's interesting. Again, it's funny how your career just kind of, it's like Forrest Gump. You did it just kind of happened. Like, oh, I'm going with my cousin. I didn't even go to the airport. I'm in the Air Force now. I'm in Okinawa now. Now I'm in Energy. Now I'm like, this is very funny how they're just a very crazy. Just like go where the wind blows you, man. And then my neighbor came by, and I got recruited.
That is one of my favorite movies too. So
Yeah, that's funny. For those that don't know, I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about being from New Orleans, I know Entergy, but talk a little bit about Entergy itself, what the company does, and maybe talk about a little bit of the specific programs or opportunities for veterans at Entergy.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So the company, I've really, I don't have anything to compare it to besides the Air Force and the Air National Guard, but I really love the company. I really feel like they practice what they preach as far as you see all the advertisements about them being involved, us being involved in the community. We are involved with the community. Unfortunately, my predecessor in this position, he had passed away unexpectedly from COVID, shortly after COVID kind of started. Every time I changed assignments or I'd step into a new position, there was always turnover from the previous, person that was doing that role. And this was hard because there was no turnover. One thing I'll get on real quick is the VA OJT programs. We have apprenticeship programs within Entergy. A lot of them are approved already by the Department of Labor, but those programs will allow Entergy employees who are part of an apprenticeship to utilize their GI Bill because the VA looks at it as going to college. Learning how to be a line worker with Entergy is because of this formal coursework involved with that apprenticeship. It gets approved for the GI Bill. So right now we have roughly 20 folks every month. I go in and do their approval every month, and they get utilize their GI Bill benefits for this job with Entergy. So that's a big plus. The VA works case by case with that, and we were actually able to get some service members back paid, and they were able to utilize, even if they went through the apprenticeship like 3 years ago and they were done and they were journeymen, I was still able to go back in there and back pay them. And of course, the DoD Skill Bridge program. Right now, we do have that established, and we are going to bring on our first skill bridgers. We're going to bring them on the end of this calendar year, so that's very exciting as well. Sometimes I do get calls out the blue. Just the other day, a Navy recruiter local to this area called me up and said, hey, I wanted to contact and connect with somebody at Entergy and talk about this. So I go ahead, let me know what you want to do. So he was like, well, he's like, I got Navy veterans that are just coming into the service, and I got ones that are getting out of the service. And I'd like to bring them to Entergy, do a site tour, for the new folks, just kind of show them how the nuclear sites operate, and then for the folks that are getting out, job opportunities for them. So that was an easy win. I was like, look, coordinate with me. I'll coordinate with the sites, and we'll make it happen. Navy veterans who are interested in nuclear, what better opportunity for them to come see a local power plant right here in their service territory that's doing business, that's getting ready to expand. Right now, I think we're kind of in unprecedented times within Entergy with Hyundai Steel, who's projected to build a power plant here with AWS, Amazon next door in Mississippi, and then with Facebook Meta in Monroe, Louisiana. So we have a lot of projects, commercial side, coming online within the next 5 to 10 years. That's really going to change the face and the look of the company because we're having to stand up a lot of power production to meet those needs for all these AI-related data centers and things of that nature. I think tapping the veteran community with different pathways is really going to be the success that we're going to, have to meet that need. It's going to be a future pipeline success for that need.
It's great to hear all that. I mean, being from New Orleans, especially, it makes me happy to hear all that infrastructure growth is coming down there. We definitely need it down that neck of the woods. And I think you hit on a great point that I don't think that we, as the veteran community of recruiters, and even at Amazon, I tried to make this point all the time that if you invest in a veteran hiring program, the company gets a massive savings of money. I mean, SkillBridge program, right? It's basically for 12 weeks, for 16 weeks, you can have someone come work for free, basically being paid by the government that you can evaluate in your company. There's a monetary savings in that. The apprenticeship program, right? I mean, the military will augment the pay of those candidates, so it makes it more attractive than just being paid the apprenticeship wage, which may not be that much. If you're getting that plus your VA benefits, that's a pretty big deal, So it may make it more attractive to someone from the military to join an apprenticeship program if they can utilize the VA benefits. And people don't think about that with apprenticeships a lot. As you said, I think most companies don't know how to do it. It's kind of scary. You have to work with the Department of Labor, and how do you get it all done? And the VA. I mean, it's not that. I mean, it takes some work, but once you get it done, there's a monetary savings to a company to invest in, their veteran workforce. And again, other one, I don't know if y'all use it or not, but you can get a work opportunity tax credit. If you hire a veteran, your company gets a tax credit from the government, especially if you hire transitioning veterans, because they're not getting unemployment insurance anymore. They're getting hired, so your company gets a tax credit for that, right? So there's a true monetary savings for investing in veterans, as Entergy and other companies do, but I don't think we do a good job. Like $100 invested in veteran recruiting gets you more than $100 invested in non-veteran recruiting. That's kind of my point. You can make a case for why you should keep, and have a full-time veteran recruiter or veteran programs based on the bottom line, right? Because at the end of the day, companies care about the bottom line. They'd love to hire veterans, but if they can hire veterans and make, and save money by doing it, that's a win. That we don't do a good job, I think, of telling that story a lot of times.
Yep, I agree totally.
How many veterans are y'all have an ERG or a resource group, I assume, in Entergy? Yeah.
Yes, we do. Actually, I kind of jumped right in with that when I came on board. I caught wind of it, and actually one of the folks that was on the interview board with me, he was a member of the Veterans ERG, and I kind of connected with him right off the bat. Said, "Look, I'm interested. Like, sign me up." I raised my hand, and actually calendar year 2023 and 2024, I was serving as the vice chair for the Veterans ERG.
Nice.
So we do 2-year tours for that, and we just did elections for 2025. So we kind of passed the torch this year. That was a great experience as well. I do feel like the Veterans ERG is a crucial element to the business side. When you step off of service and you step out of that world, it kind of fades away if you don't stay in contact with folks that you were serving with, and you're kind of looking to replace that, and you're not really finding that camaraderie and those strong bonds with folks that you work with. I mean, it might be 50 of us on that Zoom call getting together, doing an hour meeting. And I really enjoyed it because I also share like military history. So we'd have like a 10-minute military history segment. And I love history, and I love that, the museum is downtown New Orleans right there. I can go to anytime. And I've probably been 12 times and see new things every time I go. Great opportunities to connect, to engage. And also any kind of military recruiting events that I'm attending on behalf of the company, I'll share them with that network. So that network is a strong network that I can reach out to as far as school visits, military site visits. One thing that has been successful for me in my time here is just family day visits. So the Army National Guard, sometimes we'll do family day in the summer, and I'll just go out and visit a unit, set up a little table, and not just meet with the soldiers, but also meet with the spouses, the families, the children, and really just show that local support for those units. Just let them know, hey, we're here, we're hiring veterans. We'd love to connect with you. You got a lot of engineering talent here, and we have a lot of engineer positions, so let's talk.
That's awesome. No, I love to hear all that, Eddie. It's great. Personally, to see all that going on down in and around New Orleans or in southern Louisiana is great. I got to get you connected with our 9/11 Heroes Run, man, coming up in September. I plug my own guys, my Travis Manion Foundation. Perfect. Well, your career has been forthcoming and very successful. It's a pleasure to have you on today. It's a pleasure working with you, Eddie, and hopefully see you soon next time down in New Orleans. So thanks again for the time. Appreciate it.
Good. Thank you so much, Beau. I really appreciate it.